it was determined early in Dragon Age Inquisition that we'd have 9 party members. Party members in Dragon Age are probably our biggest individual characters. They take up about a third of the total writing in the game, which itself is a lot. I think we had almost a million words that's in Dragon Age Inquisition itself. So you can imagine between 9 characters, do the math, and 300,000 words divided by 9, quite a lot of writing. So we knew we would have 9. The first thing we need to think about is a matter of gameplay. Dragon Age has 3 classes: warrior, mage, rogue. Since we had 9 slots available in this particular game, we know we had to split them up among the classes for the sake of gameplay before we consider anything else. Then the team will be thinking of different types of character stories. We'll think about whether we'll bring characters back from previous games like Cassandra and Varric, but mostly we'll be thinking of new types of tales to tell and how they'll fit into the overall story arc. Chances are we're not even considering whether these stories will apply specifically to a male or female character or to a particular fantasy race. I mean, look at number 8, Dirty Robin Hood. If you play Dragon Age Inquisition, you probably know who that is. At that time, that could have been a man or a woman. It really didn't matter. During this time, the roster will change a lot. We'll talk about how these stories could play off one another and whether they'll offer enough variety. We'll take out one idea and substitute another, and this will go on until we're happy. Then we start nailing things down about each character. We need to know what race they are, and by that I mean human, dwarf, elf, Qunari, the races we have in Dragon Age, and what gender. We're considering whether each choice works with that particular character story, but also how it balances the entire group. We're not necessarily looking to have an even division exactly, but we want to make sure that we have breadth. At some point, I might stand back and say, I think we have too many women, or too many men, or we need a dwarf. This will also depend on what sorts of characters the art department wants to make. Our funny mercenary Qunari character was, for a long time, supposed to be female. But the art department had an idea for how they wanted a Qunari male warrior to look, so we went back to the drawing board. Started shuffling around our list some more. It's this point, once everything else is nailed down, that we'll start talking about other things, like their proper names or their sexuality. I know some people consider it ridiculous that we'd spend time splitting up the party like this in terms of sexuality. Romances are part of Bioware games, however. So we have to first consider who can and can't be romanced, and then by whom. We have to consider what our balance of romances says to the people buying our game. Whether we've offered any choice, or will it seem like an afterthought? But we also have to consider how these choices fit with the character as it's evolved to that point. Does it alter their concept? Does it give us new ideas? All this happens really late in pre-production, and again, we'll juggle this around as issues come up. Maybe we have a character that we've planned too many scenes for, and we need to cut back on our total number. Oops, time to replan everything. Maybe a writer says a romance just doesn't fit with their concept for that character. Okay, let's talk about it. Either way, once it seems like that list is shaping up to be final, that's when we'll stand back and take a look at it as a whole. How does it feel? Can we defend our choices? Not only to those higher up in the company, but to the fans. Not everyone will agree with the choices we made, but if we've given it due consideration, pardon me, if we've talked about it openly as a team, then we can. So let's talk about a specific character, Dorian. In Dragon Age, Dorian is described as a mage from the Dread Tevinter Imperium, charming and cocky. He would be the pride of his family if he didn't stand against everything they stood for. He also happens to be gay, something which was part of his story, but not the only reason for his existence. We didn't begin with that, however. Like I said earlier, when we start off making a major character, we begin with their story. Not just gay male mage. That's not a concept. Nothing creative is going to come out of that. But people think that's what you start with, right? Oh, you just set out to make a gay guy. Because that's the pitch to my team. Hey, guys, I want a gay guy. We focus on their personality and what we want them to represent in the overall narrative. Dorian began as the rock star mage. Cocky, aristocratic, almost as talented as he thinks he is, the Tony Stark of mages. The kind of bad boy you think you should hate, but you just can't help but think he's cool. That's what we pitched to the artist. Why didn't we give him a proper name? Because we, the writers, don't want to get too attached to a concept before we give the artists or the rest of the team a chance to offer input into the character creation process. Because we're writers. We could come up with pages and pages and pages of background, everything they should be, but what will the rest of the team get to do? They're not just there to satisfy our whims as much as I would really enjoy that. We do more concepts for characters than we need, just so we get a chance to see which ones catch on with the rest of the team and which ones don't. The artist liked this particular idea, and you can see one of the first concepts they came up with on the screen, sort of a handsome, aristocratic white guy, very Tony Stark. Then they got to work iterating Rockstar Mage's appearance. We brought up the idea that maybe he could be from Eastern Tevinter, where darker skin tones are more prevalent. The artist thought, perhaps we could go for something that seemed more Arabic or East Indian. Why? Because at the time we had plenty of white people in the cast already, and this made him stand out. It gave him some immediate character. This is also when the writing team started fleshing out his backstory. One thing we wrestled with at the time was why a man from a powerful family with everything to lose would be so set against corruption in his own country. At first, we were talking, he's going to be a closet idealist with his tragic past. But then the idea of him being gay was brought up. But Dave, someone said, Tevinter doesn't really have anything against gay people as long as you're discreet. And that's when it clicked for me. He doesn't want to be discreet. He doesn't want to marry the girl, further the dynasty. We knew we were going to have some different sexualities in the party. So what if it was this character? What if his sexuality was the seed for his dissatisfaction? It made for an interesting question to answer, and answering that led to the Dorian we have today. By the way, people keep asking me if I named Dorian after Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I didn't. I named him after Prince Dorian from the old Hercules cartoon, which is far less cool, but we find names in very strange places. Let's look at another character, Vivienne. Court enchanter to the Empress of Orlais, a woman with power and iron will who ruthlessly climbed her way to the top of the imperial court and stayed there. She started off as Dexter Butterfly. Why? Because she was the lover of a wealthy noble who had clawed her way up into the realms of power, as well as a cold-blooded killer like Dexter in the TV show. Hiding behind a veneer of social grace and political manipulation, we eventually dropped the killer part since it really didn't add much to the story, and we began calling her Iron Butterfly instead. Here you can see one of her first concepts, back when she was intended as one of the Inquisitor's advisors, actually, like at the war table, rather than someone who traveled with the party. Working with the artists, we kept massaging her concept, edging more towards a skilled mage who was part of the party rather than just an advisor, more towards Ice Queen, the results of which you can see on the left. Blonde hair, blue eyes, a force to be reckoned with for certain, but something just wasn't gelling for the team. It wasn't because she was white. It just, I don't know. We felt like we'd made this character before. So she was actually pretty close to being cut from the game entirely until one of the concept artists offered us a different take on the character that you can see on the right, more Grace Jones than Ice Queen. It changed our perspective immediately. Yes, changing her skin color might seem like a small thing, but it put the character in a new light for us. It forced us to pull ourselves from this path that we had been heading down, this box we'd already put this character in regarding what she could and could not be, and make her into something entirely new. It made us excited. One of my writers, Mary Kirby, suddenly got her, which is great when I have my writers on my team, when they immediately get what this character is, how they talk, how they move, what they do, and So she immediately latched onto the character, and I said, run with it. And she did, and that's how Vivienne was born. Another character I'd like to discuss, Krem, a member of the mercenary group known as the Bull's Chargers, led by Iron Bull, who's one of the player's party members. Krem is a warrior, and Iron Bull's second in command, and he's transgender. Initially, Krem didn't start out as much of anything. He was just a male warrior with only a few lines, nothing remarkable about him. We had a cameo from a previous game. It was planned for Iron Bull's personal plot. That had to be dropped. So it was decided that this character, Krem, would take on a larger role. The issue, however, was that he just wasn't that interesting. Patrick Weeks, Iron Bull's writer, brought up an idea. What if Krem were transgender? It's something we had talked about a few times. In previous games, we didn't intend to make these characters transgender, but that's how they were read. And they were generally used as prostitutes or for laughs. And we had some people contact us and say earnestly that did not feel good. To our only presentation of transgender characters, whether we meant it or not, it was interpreted as characters that were there for comedic value. So we talked about having a transgender character of a different type. It's weird water for us, but we wanted to try it. And with this particular character, the idea of him being transgender was interesting. As the team, we talked about what that would mean to the views of the Kuhn, so the philosophy that Iron Bull's people follow, their view on gender, and whether did it contradict what we'd already read, or we sort of felt it complemented their view. Krem would allow us to say something about the Kuhn and also about Iron Bull himself as a character. And it provided us that opportunity for a transgender character who was neither a sex worker nor the butt of a joke. The rest of the team was absolutely on board. Caroline Livingston, our VO director, was excited by the chance to tackle Krem's dialogue. Jennifer Hale, who ended up voicing Krem, was equally excited, did research. The fans embraced Krem, and it was a very positive experience all around.